Welcome, everybody. It is Monday night already, and it is time to take 20 short minutes to help level up your soul smarts. Tonight, we will be focusing on a formula out of the lift category called SolleMaca XD. And as always, I like to start with hearing from somebody else how this formula has impacted them. So let's get that started.
Y'all, I gotta tell you something. I have been doing all the right things, taking all my herbs, taking all my vitamins, checking in, doing what I'm supposed to do. And for the past 60 days, I have been off so much that I didn't know what in the heck was going on. And I know I made it through perimenopause, and I know my hormones have played a little bit, but I had no idea. There was a product that I haven't taken for probably 6 or 7 years, the SolleMaca. Last week, I had a revelation and an oh wow moment, and took two and was in shock. The next morning, my life was totally different. I've been supporting and doing everything that I knew, but was missing the key ingredient. Never again.
I love how timely this testimony is because this literally came in within the last week or two. And Chris, as many of you know, has been with Soul since the beginning and does a phenomenal job taking her products. But this simply was not one that she thought was needed for her. And it was so significant, the impact it had just from taking a couple doses, that now she realizes with the stage she is in life that this is something that's going to be very beneficial for her moving forward. And so, yes, it is so awesome that this was such a powerful difference that she felt so immediately. So let's look at what the key benefits are for Soul Maca. And by the way, XD stands for extra dose of the maca and what we have in here. So the key benefits for this formula, even though you're going to hear us talk a lot about hormonal balancing and how that looks throughout the body, this formula is also very good for, as you see there at the top, sustained stamina. So think of it like endurance. And one of the reasons that this formula is so outstanding is because of the cordyceps and what it does for the lung power and the fact that it's an adaptogen along with the maca. And remember, we have three forms of maca in here. So we have essentially four different varieties of adaptogens in this formula. Part of the formula contains a herb known as Damiana. It is tied in with the other, with the macas in one way, and then the other plants we have in this formula really help support hormones, which means it's going to help with fertility. It is very good at helping support bringing the a balanced libido back into the equation. Now, don't be afraid about using this for maybe a 14, 15, 16-year-old because hormones can jump all over the place. Remember, adaptogens always bring the body back to its ideal balance. And so that's not a concern. And again, I talked about we have three types of maca. We will look at this a little bit more in depth. Adaptogens also always help support your mental well-being. So mood swings, which come also when our hormones are out of balance, it makes sense if we have adaptogens that have a strong point of helping to balance hormones, that this would also help support our mental outlook. And then the cordyceps are in there is just, it has always been my favorite adaptogen when it comes to lung health and support. So jumping right in, because the maca is such a strong part of this formula, I want to make certain that we cover this. And yes, we have three different types of maca: yellow, red, and black. And lots of times, a formula that has maca will have one or maybe two. This is very unique that we bring all three to the table. And the reason we do it is because they each bring a little bit different dimension of what maca can do. Now, in general, it's going to help protect against fatigue. So again, we talked about stamina and going the distance, endurance. Well, think about that, what that looks in everyday life too. If you are a young parent, have children at home, going the challenging and being able to go the distance with that. Even if we have a pregnant mom, going that distance, that fatigue when you're growing a child. And it just goes from there. When you look at athletes, you look at physically demanding work, maca is just very powerful. It also, besides supporting hormones and mood balance, looks at healthy bone support as well. And I did want to bring this back in because this is so important. And this is our formula has the most amount of maca in it. So I wanted to touch on this again. And even though all three forms of maca do support bone density, the red maca is what is known to have, at this point, the greatest impact on the body's ability to strengthen the bones. There is a great study that was done in 2006 showing that those participants did indeed have increased bone density. And it is all too common that we hear what used to be just in our menopausal women concerns about bone density. Unfortunately, we're seeing this in younger and younger people as well. And there's various reasons why that's impacting, but having a support system in there to help increase bone density or help maybe prevent bone degradation becomes very important. And the reason that like I've got in here, the current thinking is maca's ability to balance hormones also helps because you're getting more movement, you have more energy, that this is helping to support that increase in bone density. Now, maca is also tied in with the ability to increase tissue levels of IGF-1, which is a hormone or a precursor hormone that actually decreases as we get older. Now, why is this important? Because as you see here, it helps support the hormonal system no matter what stage you're in, whether it's in that perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopause. But it also supports healthy reproduction function in men. In fact, this is one of the ones that we often look at, and it's can often be a good idea for both the male and female to take this formula if they're looking to grow their family. Now, IGF-1 naturally supports collagen-based structures. This makes it kind of a great combination to use with our Solle Royal, which is already giving us the components to build collagen. This kind of brings in that extra support system to help the body utilize it even more impactful. Neurotransmitter hormones, so think of things that connect, and send information back and forth utilizing hormones. And then, of course, the endocrine gland function. There is so much involved when it comes to balancing our hormones. It's not just what people can generally consider the reproductive area. It's going to be things like your thyroid, your pancreas, your adrenals. And so this is why I wanted to make certain that all this information was here for you. Now, one of the other things that is in this formula is a superfruit. Comes out of Amazon by the name of kupu asu. And it is really loaded with a really high concentration of amino acids. That's going to help build muscle, but it also helps with brain function. And there is a specific part of that called theacrine, which is going to help locomotor function. So otherwise, for me, I'm thinking that more of movement or intentionality. If I'm trying to move and maybe throw a ball to someone at the other end of the field, it'd be kind of a great idea if I could actually get it close to the person that I'm throwing to, which I generally do a pretty good job. But a lot of people have challenges with that. So locomotor function, I just want you to think other aspects on what this can do. Now, amino acids, antioxidants, dense nutrition is always going to be powerful for helping support the system, no matter what it is we're addressing. This is an amazing other little testimony. I actually threw in two tonight because we got such great testimonies talking about, in these cases, how the SolleMaca formula supported them and helped them in menopause. So let's listen to what Colleen had to say.
Hi, I'm Colleen. Where are all my perimenopausal and menopausal women? Because you know what? I've been there. 8 years ago, I had an ovary removed. Perimenopause, hot flashes, all of it hit me like a ton of bricks. I am a nurse, and I looked like I stepped out of the shower with my scrubs on every time I had a hot flash. And that is not a good look when you step into a patient's room to do a procedure with them and you look like you stepped out of the shower. They think you're nervous. You know they're nervous, so you have to reassure them it's a hot flash. I tried everything, and nothing was working for me to make these hot flashes go away until Maca. Solle Naturals stepped into my life, and the first product I ever ordered from Solle Naturals was Maca. And from the time I took my first capsule, I have never had another hot flash again. That's not normal. Sometimes it takes time, but for me, it was exactly what my body needed. Maca took care of my hot flashes. Maca helped balance my hormones.
I cannot thank Colleen enough for this information. And maybe part of the reasons I'm more sensitive and aware of this right now is here I'm about 61. I'm well versed in what my peers are going through. But I will tell you, Maca is also outstanding for things like adrenal exhaustion and fatigue. If you remember, it talks about how it helps support the endocrine system. So this formula, even though we're hearing some of the menopausal and hormonal aspects of it, this formula is a huge player. So cordyceps, I referenced that this is in this formula. Cordyceps is an adaptogen I love because it does so many different things. When you look at this list, you're going to see how it helps with the liver and the kidneys and helps with blood sugar support. It's helping support blood pressure, again, endurance. But one of the reasons this is going because it's so good for the lungs. In fact, they call it a lung regenerative. This was the adaptogen I used for my grandmother when her lungs were filling up with scar tissue. They'd given her 5 years to live when she was 89. When I came back to help take care of her, needless to say, with this, we were able to eradicate the condition and she lived to be 101. But as you can see the power of this, the lungs are so important for being able to not just get in oxygen, but release toxins, out of our system. So it is part of the eliminative, it's an area of the body that takes care of eliminative processes as well. So anytime we can help that become more functional, we've increased the power of our formula. And now we're going to hear a few words from Greg Halliday.
When we talk about SolleMaca XD, most people who are familiar with the formula think of hormone balancing, and there are a number of ingredients that are fantastic at balancing hormone levels. They are so important when it comes to physical health, emotional health, mental well-being as well. Hormones play a key role in all of that, and it is pretty difficult, in my opinion, to deal with hormones where we take them synthetically and try to balance levels ourselves versus taking natural adaptogens such as the macas that are in the SolleMaca XD that help the body do it naturally through the hypothalamus and the pituitary. This is something that the Chinese and many other cultures have years and years, in fact, millennia of experience doing. So the hormone balancing function is fantastic in SolleMaca XD, but today I want to share one thing about another ingredient, Cordyceps sinensis. Cordyceps is a combination of a fungus and a mushroom, beneficial, grows in high altitude, so just like the macas in this formula, 13,000 to 15,000 feet above sea level, known for many beneficial properties. And one of them, what originally drew me to it personally, was lung health. In fact, Dr. Allison Caldwell Andrews shared a study with us where 120 individuals, and this is a published study in 2016, were part of a placebo versus cordyceps study. Half of them got placebo, half of them got cordyceps. They took it for 3 months. What did they find? Well, these people who had suffered with asthma had lower inflammation levels, had a improved quality of life, better lung function, and more symptom-free days. And also something called IgG, immunoglobulin G, these levels increased. Now that is the most abundant antibody in our system. It's produced by plasma cells in the bone marrow. Here are a few things that IgG does for us. One, it protects us by binding to virus, bacteria, other pathogens and neutralizing them. Two, it helps the body remember previous infections to deal with it more efficiently in the future. It activates the system that destroys pathogens, and it'll even cross the placenta to provide immunity to the fetus. So it's a wonderful part of immunity. and a benefit from Cordyceps sinensis, increased levels of this important antibody. Now, just to finish out, Cordyceps also was involved in another study published where fatigue is lowered, cold intolerance improved, less dizziness when various conditions can bring about dizziness, tinnitus or ringing in the ears decreased, low libido and sex drive improved, amnesia, conditions of amnesia improved. So all of these improvements were shown versus a placebo in another study. Cordyceps is a fantastic adaptogen and is part of SolleMaca XD.
And now we have Greg Halliday on here with us and joining, and I wanted to ask if he'd unmute and maybe share if he had any other additional thoughts that come to mind that he might want to share about this formula.
Well, I think I inserted them all into that segment. That was a little longer than 2 minutes, Valerie. Just one quick thought. Maybe a fun fact. After the macas in SolleMaca XD, the next most abundant ingredient is the cordyceps, by the way. So you're getting, I think I was just looking at the formula again today. A recommended dose on the bottle is 3 capsules, right? And with that, you're probably getting somewhere around a full capsule. It isn't quite that because we have a concentrated and standardized extract of the cordyceps, but the equivalent of the cordyceps powder, which is quite potent in its own right, even without being concentrated, you're getting like the equivalent of like a capsule of that, of just pure cordyceps. So for people who may have used cordyceps in the past, just as a ballpark and to know like how much of that am I getting in there, you're getting a lot, like a whole capsule worth every time you do a dose.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for that. And I love that.
Gotcha.
I mean, I was thinking about the uniqueness of combining cordyceps with the maca and the other items, and it just makes sense to help support oxygenation in the body and endurance along with everything else that goes with it. So thank you so much, my friend. See if it's going to let me move to the next slide here. There we go. Whoops. It did, and then it jumped all too far. All right. So here we are with one of the other plants that we added to this formula, oh, maybe 2 years ago or so, uh, Tribulus terrestris. And this is a great little plant. And what I like is its ability to help support muscle weakness, but it's also very kidney protective. It helps to help balance testosterone levels, and that's something that we hear a lot about. The testosterone levels are unbelievably low in both females and males. In fact, they're saying a lot of the males now, our 20 to 30-year-olds, are having the testosterone levels of what our 70 and 80-year-olds used to have. So it's very low. It's much lower. And then the tribulus, and this is all documented, comes out of a fabulous book um, talking about adaptogens. But the fact that we have this diuretic that helps creatine clearance. Therefore, because of that, it's been shown that it can help prevent kidney stones. And as always, when we get in, it's helped support the liver. You're always going to end up with mood being impacted. Believe it or not, you will end up with cholesterol being impacted. And I love the fact that this also helps raise glutathione. A lot of people are looking for ways to raise glutathione as well. Damiana, prostate inflammation. So I will get the question often, what do I use for my husband or my father that's looking to have prostate support? So this is in our formula with the maca, and this is one of the formulas that I always talk about. So SolleMaca is equally beneficial for men and women. So don't hesitate to use it for both members there in the family. Yes, it's going to help support with things like balancing the hormones, energy, hot flashes, not as bring them about, but help extinguish them, which we heard from Colleen when she was sharing. And then exhaustion. And that's where the whole thinking behind the different plants we have in this, a lot, if your body's too tired, then it's not going to be able to reproduce. It's not going to have a sex drive. It's not going to have any of this because it knows it doesn't have the energy to build and support and procreate and actually grow that life, and particularly in a female. So this is why there's added benefits when you look at the exhaustion component, otherwise endurance and stamina, why this becomes important addition into the formula, the plants that can do things like this. The SolleMaca XD, here is some of the nutritional profile highlights. You can see that we have a really nice variation in the macas with your different B vitamins. You see calcium, we see phosphorus, the kupuasu. Remember, we have antioxidants also in here and all the amino acids, but then you've got different B vitamins as well. So we know the B vitamins feed the nervous system. And then in the Damiana and the Tribulus, we've got calciums again. So this is a nice formula that can help support getting that nutrition there to help uh, offer to the body what it needs to help with that bone density challenges. And just in general, this is a very nicely rounded formula and something that I do believe can be underused. A lot of people, in fact, just generally just feel that energy come in very nicely. This is why it is so beneficial for all kinds of variations when we're talking adrenals, talking thyroid. It is loaded with things to feed those systems. And so, since we're talking foundationally, I wanted to end with a quote that tied to that. And that is, you can't build a great building on a weak foundation. You must have a solid foundation if you're going to have a strong superstructure. So think about that. And remember, all our formulas are designed to have some impact on our foundation. The maca, because of what it's doing structurally, is really big in that when it comes for bone density. It's also going to be big in that with the whole endocrine system. It is just in general a powerful formula.